Hey everybody, this is Jen Keenan with the Four Squares Residential Group at Keller Williams Real Estate, coming to you with my Love the Way You Live video series. And this month, I'm so excited to have with me my friend, Chris Elliott from Remax in Richmond, Virginia. And today we're going to be talking about the South and a little bit of Richmond, Virginia, which I think people in Richmond, maybe they don't consider it the South, but certainly us up here in New England, it's the South.
Mid-Atlantic
Right.
is
Yeah, that's a better
probably more
term.
appropriate. Yeah.
But you definitely don't get weather like we get. So,
That much is true. That much is true.
So I'm so excited. I've actually never been to Richmond. So I'm very excited to learn a little bit today about, what it's like to live in Richmond and just kind of like the market. And yeah, tell us a little bit about what you know about Richmond.
Yeah, absolutely. So Jen, first and foremost, thank you for having me. Very much appreciate it. So yeah, Richmond, Virginia, former capital of Confederacy, which is very controversial in today's day and age. But by definition, we are in the South. But yeah, I would say Richmond is, if you really think about it, is probably the northernmost part of the South. And depending on who you ask, Richmond is Southern, Richmond is not Southern. Really all depends. But no, we're about an hour and a half south of Metro DC, which is kind of a market that most people are familiar with. We are I would say we're a big little town. You can get pretty much everywhere in 30 minutes, 45 if you're really going from one side of town to the other. But no, Richmond's a super cool town. So I originally grew up outside of the New York City area, lived in South Carolina for 6 years. So I've kind of been up and down the East Coast and really enjoyed our time in Richmond. We had all four seasons, very affordable market. We've had a lot of folks that have moved down from Northern Virginia since COVID started, that are folks that are teleworking, just because we are a much more affordable metro marketplace as compared to DC. Median home price is anywhere from 375 to 400. Depending on what you're looking at. And yeah, what else can I tell you?
That's amazing. Well, I just kind of wanted to come back to that affordability piece. Yep. Because certainly, with COVID, and this is kind of what this little video series I've been doing was born out of the fact that so many people can now work remotely. And let's face it, up here in Greater Boston, it's very expensive to live here. And
a little chilly too.
Yeah, just a little bit. We're very hardy, though. We say we're hardy New Englanders. What would we complain about if we didn't complain about the weather, right?
Sure.
So a lot of people were selling and cashing out their homes and moving to less expensive parts of the country. Now I've done videos. I don't even know what number video this is I've done at this point, but I've done videos with agents all over the country. And sometimes we're looking at markets that are more expensive and sometimes not. And I think just based on that little blurb you just gave us, certainly Richmond could be an affordable option for people who still want to have some decent square footage, be within a metro area, but also, not break the bank in terms of their budget. So like here in my county where I am in Massachusetts, I'm in the largest county in Massachusetts, and the average sale price in our county is about $700,000. And that would be for, maybe a 3-bed, 2.5 bath. Maybe you'll have 1,800, 2,000 square feet, maybe a 10,000 square foot lot, maybe a little bit bigger. So, from a comparative standpoint, sounds like you can get a lot more for your money down in Richmond for sure.
Yeah. So let me, I'm actually, and I apologize, I didn't do my homework like I should have before this call, but I'm just pulling it up in our MLS right now. So if I search active properties that have 3+ bedrooms, 2+ baths, 2-story homes, let's see, kind of in the surrounding counties. So Richmond, you have Richmond City, which is a locality within itself. And that is very much the city. All of the flavor, all of the kind of uniqueness about Richmond, I would say, is mostly found within the city. That's where you're going to find a lot of your restaurants, a lot of your bars, a lot of your entertainment, a lot of the kind of uniqueness of Richmond is within the city. And then we've got three major surrounding counties. So you've got Hanover County, which is on the northern side, a little bit more on the rural side. You have Henrico County, which kind of splits, Richmond City splits it in half. So that's eastern and western, very much the suburbs. And then you've got Chesterfield County on the south side, which is also the suburbs as well. Yeah, so that's kind of the dynamic. But if I'm just pulling this up real quick and I search the Metro Marketplace to see what you can get in that 375 to 400 range, not much on the market right now, but that's going to get you approximately a 2,000 square foot, 3-bedroom, 2-bath colonial. Most of our properties in Richmond, you've kind of got some 100-year-old. So you guys have super old properties.
We
Old
sure
to us,
do.
old to us is like 100 years old, which I know to Bostonians is probably like, oh, that's new construction. But no, so we've got some of that in the city. A lot of the suburbs of Richmond were built out post-World War II. So you see a lot of 1950s, 1960s built either brick ranchers or tri-level homes. And then we saw a big boom again in the 1980s and the 1990s, and that's where a lot of the newer kind of 2-story colonial properties that's what you'll see there.
Yeah, that's very similar to our suburbs as well. We get into like the 100-year-old and maybe over 100-year, like the closer you get to Boston, certainly like in Cambridge and kind of, downtown Boston for sure. Then you push out to the burbs and you're getting your like raised ranches, your center entrance colonials, lovely like newer construction homes too.
Yep.
And you're still within, a 30 to 45-minute drive to the city without traffic, really depending on, where you want to be.
Yeah.
I think the thing too is that you probably you have a lot of newer construction than we do. We don't have a lot of new construction really at all.
Yeah, we do have a fair amount of new construction. A lot of it's happening in Chesterfield County right now, and some in Hanover, just because that's kind of where the land is left to be built upon. But as you probably know, new construction is definitely taking a long time right now. So we're shooting this March of 2022. Average build times are anywhere from 9 to 12 months with most builders.
Yeah. But if somebody were thinking, like a lot of folks here are thinking either, I'm going to retire, I'm going to downsize, so if somebody's kind of looking in that 2 to 3 year plan, certainly they could consider new construction, get something brand new, perhaps even customize it to some degree. And when it's ready, they would be able to move. So, which would be a good option for them.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you're looking at about 500 to 600,000 is about where that new construction product is starting. And we are seeing, if somebody is in that retiree type mode, we're definitely seeing a fair amount of the, we're calling it age targeted product being built, where first floor masters, and then, sometimes there's a second floor with a couple extra bedrooms, sometimes not. But there's a lot of that 55 plus type construction being built.
Yeah, and that's amazing because we don't have a lot of that here at all. We have a handful of communities, sprinkled around, I would say, eastern Massachusetts, between north of Boston, south of Boston, and then a handful down on Cape Cod. And so, and I know I've heard from, friends of mine, their parents, or like, just clients of mine, that they really want that 55 plus community experience, and it just doesn't really exist here. And so I think when somebody starts to look in other markets outside of New England, they have so many more options for that. And you don't have to deal with the snow, and you don't have to deal with landscaping, and you get that kind of one level living if you want it. So there's a lot of benefits to that, I think.
100%, 100%.
Yeah.
And one thing I'll throw out there, so we are the 2 counties that we see the most people migrating into Metro Richmond from are the 2 counties that comprise Long Island, New York. So we're seeing a fair amount of folks that are moving down. And I think the beauty of a city like Richmond is we're in the South, so you're going to see more favorable weather, but you're also close enough to where if you want to take a road trip or take a flight back to see, kids or family that's still in the area, we're not as far south as, a Georgia, Carolinas, or, Florida.
Yeah. And, it's funny, my husband and I have had these conversations recently, just those kind of etherical retirement conversations. And I always say to him, I need to be near, if we decide to move, I want to be near a major airport because I don't want to have to take 3 flights anytime I want to go somewhere. And so
Yeah.
I think the beauty of Richmond is that you can get right into DC, fairly quickly, and you can get a flight to anywhere in the world there, probably,
Yeah.
with very easy, good choices,
Yeah. Yeah.
which I think is appealing. I would love to learn a little bit about, for anybody that is considering a move and they are still, our working age, right? Where do people work? What industries do you have there in Richmond?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are home to Capital One, the financial institution. We are home to CarMax. We are also home to Philip Morris Altria, the cigarette folks.
Yes.
So
Big
we do
tobacco.
have, yep, yep. We are also home to a very fast-growing company, CoStar, which is kind of like the Zillow of the commercial real estate space. So
Mhm.
it seems like they're throwing money around like like it's play money. So we definitely have some bigger corporations that are planted here in Metro Richmond. So there are a ton of folks that work for those companies. And I would say, yeah, that's we've got Virginia Commonwealth University, we've got University of Richmond, you've got University of Charlottesville that's in or University of Virginia that's in Charlottesville. So that's only about an hour away from the northwest corner. So I actually have somebody that lives on my street that actually is a doctor at UVA and commutes every day. And for a lot of people coming from bigger metros like Boston, I mean, an hour commute is nothing. To us,
It's
it's like
nothing.
torture, but to you guys, it's par for the course. And then, like I mentioned, we're seeing a lot of folks now that are working that have migrated down from Northern Virginia that are still working for Northern Virginia, DC companies that, they've only got to be in the office once a week, a couple times a month, whatever that schedule looks like. So they're living in Metro Richmond, achieving a better, cost of living. And they're just telecommuting and then, driving up 95, I-95 a couple times a month to go into the
Yeah.
office.
Yeah. And that was gonna be one of my next questions. Like, is there a lot of people that really, they work in DC, but they live in Richmond? And obviously, I think before COVID, probably not, a good handful, but now even more because you don't have to drive in as much.
Well, I'll tell you, it's kind of funny, kind of not funny, depending on what side of the table you're sitting on. But so we're in an environment right now where there's very limited inventory. Everything's getting bid up, at least on the resale market. Things are getting bid above asking price. And the only folks that have the cash to throw around to actually get these properties, by and large, are the folks from Northern Virginia. So
Right.
the shame is that the Richmonders are not able to buy their Richmond homes. But the folks coming in from other marketplaces where they're kind of, or even in the Northeast, they're cashing out, at Northeast prices. They're
Hmm.
taking all that money and they're coming down. They're able to throw it around, and they're actually driving our prices up. So,
It's happening everywhere, and
yeah,
it's just, we're all just riding. We're doing the best we can with what we have, right, on all
yeah,
fronts. And but I think, that is certainly, again, the appeal from our market out because, we don't have a lot of people coming here in, right? Our market is outbound, the
yeah,
major, and that's part of the reason why I started doing this video is to give my friends and family and sphere know that they have options in other cities that I can help them in and help make these great connections. And so, that is one of the benefits of where we live is that, our depending on where you're going, your money can go a little bit farther and still have some left over if you are retiring or downsizing or maybe only want to work part-time or whatever, which I think is, we're lucky in that sense.
yeah.
Hopefully it's still like that when we're ready to retire.
Well, and one other thing I'll throw out to you that I kind of forget about having lived here, and I don't know what the situation is in Massachusetts, but we have very favorable property taxes. So our property taxes run about 1%,
Oh, wow.
um, which is, yeah, for a lot of people coming from, the Northeast, that's very cheap.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's very, very advantageous from a retiree standpoint.
Yeah. No, that's certainly much cheaper than, I mean, ours are set, it's kind of city by city, but they're certainly higher than 1% for
Yeah,
sure. Yeah.
yeah,
And the other thing I wanted to mention that you mentioned was the colleges and universities. Certainly where we are here with Harvard and MIT and Tufts and BU and BC, not only do we have folks coming in to go to school, but they are some of our biggest employers as well. So,
yeah,
I always try to make that connection when I do these interviews in terms of, well, if you're not in finance or you're not in some of these industries that you mentioned, the universities are great places to work as well. And there's job opportunities there. Certainly here we have a large healthcare community, we have a biotech community, and certainly finance and tech as well. I would say they're just a little bit secondary. But then the universities, whether you're teaching or you're an admin or you're doing a fellowship, there's such great things happening on our campuses. And we're such, we're known for our schools up here, right? And I think a lot of people kind of run and what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of, jive with that academic calendar and being around academia and being around places where there's thinkers and all this action happening. And so to be able to take that and have it somewhere else in another part of
yeah.
the country, I think could be really appealing to a lot of people.
Yeah, you also, one thing I'll hit on too, you mentioned the hospital system. So Virginia Commonwealth uh, University Health System, formerly known as the Medical College of Virginia, is located right within downtown Richmond, and they are very much a hospital. And my wife, who's a nurse, is going to crucify me for not knowing the exact terminology, but essentially, if you are within a smaller locality that is kind of orbiting Richmond and you're not quite in DC or not quite out to Virginia Beach or not quite out to some of these smaller markets like Lynchburg and Farmville and whatnot, if you need serious care, they're bringing you to VCU.
Awesome.
So that's also a big employer as well.
All right. So one last question before we
Yeah,
wrap up. What do people like to do for fun there? You mentioned Virginia Beach, which I know isn't, it's probably an hour, I'm guessing an hour-ish.
yeah.
What else? Like tell me about like, here we're so lucky we can be in the mountains in a couple hours, we can be to the beach, we like to walk everywhere, we have the seasons. Tell me a little bit about fun stuff in Richmond and beyond.
Yeah, so there's a lot of fun to be had within a 2-hour radius. So Charlottesville, depending on what side of town you're living on, is anywhere from an hour to an hour and a half. So you've got the University of Virginia out there, so you can go out there for a basketball game, baseball, football, all that fun stuff. You've got the Shenandoah Valley Mountains and the Blue Ridge Mountains that are about 2 hours northwest of us. So those are plenty of fun. The Blue Ridge Parkway is a good drive, nice and majestic. To the east, you've got Virginia Beach is about 2 hours away. So Virginia Beach, Norfolk, Newport News, all of that is out there. The Outer Banks of North Carolina, which is a very beautiful trip if you've never been. That's about 3 hours to the east.
Okay,
And then of
that's not
course,
bad.
DC, yeah. And then of course, DC's about 2 hours north. In Metro Richmond itself, we are very much a beer and food town. So it seems like just like everywhere, there's a lot of local breweries, but we have a very good brewery scene here in Richmond, and a very good restaurant scene in Richmond. Richmond's actually been recognized for a lot of its restaurants in the city. So definitely tons of fun, tons of stuff to drink and tons of stuff to eat when you come to Richmond.
And nice weather and very little snow, if any, in an annual basis.
Yeah, well, and for some folks coming from Boston, I know you might miss the snow a little bit. We do get all 4 seasons, which is very nice. We do get a little bit of snow every year, but I would say our in the winter our highs are usually anywhere from 30 to 40 degrees, so it's not like bitter cold.
Do you own a shovel, Chris?
I do own one shovel. Yeah, yeah. But I only own like a light jacket. No need to bring your parka down
Yeah,
here.
no, you leave your bean boots at home when you're going to Richmond.
Right. Well, the girls still wear them because they're fashionable, but I don't think
Yes.
you really need them.
Well, Chris, thank you so much for your time today and
Yeah.
educating us about Richmond. And I know anybody watching this, certainly, even if you're just going to go visit Richmond, hit me up. I'll connect you with Chris. He'll take you for a beer. He'll show you the breweries. That is all the fun stuff happening. Thank you so much. Thank you again. You're the best. And
Absolutely,
I
Jen.
know I can't wait to come visit myself personally. So we're going to hang out and have a drink anyway.
Sounds like a plan. Any excuse to write off a beer on taxes.
Totally,
it'll be
right?
good. Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks everybody. Thanks for watching. And until next time, I hope you love the way you live.